Hello and welcome to this rebuild refurbishment of a Fokker DR1 1/4 scale, which owes its origins, I believe, originally to a flare design. Although it hasn't been made from a kit, there are no markings and the ribs don't bear the characteristic format that flare kits do. However, it's probably been built from a flare plan, and as those of you who've been following me know, the upper wing has had to be totally rebuilt. And there it is. The lower wing and the middle wing were in existence. The bottom wing was fine. The middle wing needed some work. But now I need to set this up so that it's all correct. So what I'm going to do is, well, what I have done is produced a simple jig template for the gap between the bottom wing and the middle wing, and the upper wing and the middle wing have the same spacing. So I've made this by drawing round a rib that I kept, measuring the height. Now obviously it's very difficult to get the spacing right, so what I've done is I cut it deliberately short, and then I've got an extra piece that I've then been able to use to fit into the bottom of the underside of the middle wing. So if I show you this setup, I'll just pause this, I'll need to put it on a tripod. Right, that's better. If I place this in now, this central line coincides with the spar. So if I place that in and line it up with the spar, and obviously the bottom part conforms to the shape of the aerofoil, so that fits. Now I know, that being the case, that this top one should have the same gap. So if I take that down, put it in, line it up, there we go. So I've marked on now, I've marked on the underside there the position, because that's a sliding fit at the moment. I need to repeat that on the other side, and then let's have a look at this part. Hope you can see it. So these are in existence, and as I've said, they're going to be replaced with aluminium. I've cut out a forward one, and looking at photographs, I've worked out that that's the sort of angle that they should appear. And so, sun's terrible, isn't it? There you go. That's the angle that it needs to be at. They're fairly close together, the cabanes. And I'm going to make a plate that I've got with some quite heavy copper that was from an engineering project, a boiler making project. And I'm going to make a copper plate that bolts in to this plywood rib, and it's going to be boxed in and strengthened. And these are going to be cut short, is going to be bolted on to that copper plate, both the rear one and the forward one. So I'll get that hacked out and show you what it looks like, and I think you'll have a better idea of how it's going to come together. And that's going to maintain the same angle of attack between each wing. There's been some discussion about which it should be, but the flare kit was 0, 0, 0. There's some thought that the upper wing should have a slightly negative angle of attack so it stalls last. But as the flare kit's been going for some time now, I'll stick with that. And I'm setting all of these up so they're all identical. They're obviously set by the fuselage. This one, I'm going to make sure that it matches the middle wing. Okay, let's cut out that plate. There's the plate. I think you can see it's a very simple affair. I'm going to beef it up quite substantially. This is just, it's screwed in to hold it in place. It'll be epoxied, and then this will have a rib over the top, boxing it in, still leaving a hole for the aileron leads, servo leads. But that'll be basically a sandwich between two plywood shapes, and that'll be really, it's solid now, but obviously it'll be more so. And then if we switch around, you'll be able to see what it looks like from the side. well, there we have it. The cabanes on one side have been done using this simple card jig to make sure everything's square. I'm quite happy with that. They're a little bit heavy. I may machine them down and reduce the size by about a third. Then again, I might not, because after all, it ain't Rick Toven flying this, it's me. And I ain't in his league, so perhaps leaving them a little bit heavier is not a bad thing. Whatever the case, they will have the corners rounded off, and that will actually make them look a lot slimmer than they actually are. So I hope you found that useful. It's quite straightforward little task, but it's a big step forward. I still haven't decided whether I'm going for leaving the top wing and the middle wing connected. If I can fit them in the car like that, I haven't checked yet, then I'll leave them. If I can't, then I'll just slide these through and make them removable. Apparently, because it was a cantilever wing system, they aren't actually necessary, but the pilots were a little nervous flying a plane without interplane struts. If you look closely at the photographs of the Fokker triplane, there's no rigging on them. It's not needed. But the pilots felt a little bit unsure, and by all accounts, these were added mainly to reassure the pilots. So they're not necessary, and if they're not necessary on the full size, they're certainly probably not necessarily on this. So I hope you found that useful. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to subscribe if you haven't done so, that's a good way to keep in touch with any progress that I make on this project. Thanks for looking in, folks. Bye now.